Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joseph Ally, and today I would like to speak about the topic of manifesting a specific person. I've been getting questions every single day, over and over again, for a very long time on this topic because it really is, I think it's the hottest topic that there is. And so, first, I want to start off by answering the most important question, which is, can I manifest a specific person? And the answer is absolutely yes. There is no exceptions to the rule of that you can manifest anything. Literally anything is possible. And, I follow the train of thought of Neville Goddard because I have proven everything that man says. And so that's, I kind of want to go into pretty deep detail on how to manifest a specific person, what it takes, what types of things to keep in mind, and some stories as well. So first of all, the main critical point is that anything is possible. And when you get that into your mind, then automatically that will distill a lot of doubt because because if that question is lingering in your mind, can I do this? Is this even possible? That's that's going to set you back. And so I'm here to tell you that there is no doubt at all, and I've proven it thousands and thousands of times, that you can manifest anything: a specific person, a job, money, a vacation, anything you can manifest. And so I just wanted to say that, and I'm going to tell you how. So basically, in order to manifest something, there's a few key components to manifesting anything, and it's very, very simple. The technique is very simple, and that is to first know what you want, right? So you would know. I'm not going to go into deep detail about the specific person just yet, but I want to lay out what it takes. It takes knowing exactly what you want, and it takes creating a scene or some type of scene which would exist if and only if your desire has been fulfilled. And that means to go to the end and then add a little bit of time to that. So you have to choose a scene which would embody the fulfilled desire. And so you choose that, and then you go into your imagination. So you imagine that scene, you enter it into first person, and then you feel the feelings of it really being there. So the components are imagining and feeling, and always being the end. So the wish fulfilled. And some people do this through literally seeing it in their imagination. Some people hear the end, so like a conversation between people. Some people use their senses of feeling. So the keys are to feel the feelings of the wish fulfilled. And with those components, when you can do that, and when you can really feel like it's real and get the thrill of it being done, then there is nothing that can get between you and that manifestation. And a natural bridge of incidents will unfold, and you will arrive at your end result. And this is something, like I said, I've been practicing this for years, unnumbered times, countless times, thousands and thousands of times of before and after, doing studies, and numerous per day. And so with those key components, right? I want to kind of explain to you what it takes to manifest a specific person. So, one of the things that's very important to understand is that although we are manifesting, and it almost seems supernatural, right? I mean, this is happening every moment of the day, because everything that we see, anything that exists in our world first existed in our imagination. So everything in my world, specifically every person I come in contact with, the job that I have, where I live, um, anything, I have first imagined it, or it first started in a thought. And when you understand that, a lot of people get freaked out, but literally nothing can exist unless you first imagined it. So in your world, you would have first imagined, or had a thought, or had a conversation, or felt something over, and anything, all thoughts are manifested. And then there's a time gap between the time of your thought or feeling or imaginal act and the time of manifestation. So this is the way that the world works. And the faster you start tracing this and doing some searching and looking within and thinking of your thoughts or controlling your thoughts and then watching the outcomes, the sooner you will be able to gain complete control over everything. And the reason I say all that is because the relationship that you want in its current state that it is in is your manifestation to begin with. And everything operates through the laws of nature. So everything must unfold naturally, right? So a natural bridge of incidents unfolds that lead you up to your manifestation. So when you imagine, so say I imagine being with a specific person, I'm going to create a scene, right? So say I wanted to be married with someone specific. We're going to talk about specific first, and then we'll talk about general if you don't have a specific person. I would pick the person in my mind, and I would think of a scene which would embody that fulfilled desire. So maybe it would be a 1 year anniversary of marriage with that person, or simpler, maybe just the wedding ring on my hand and then the wedding ring on her hand and us being together. So those would be two examples of the end result, and picking a scene to play in your imagination, right? And so I would pick that. I would either close my eyes, or you can keep them open. It doesn't matter, actually, as long as you can kind of suspend your judgment and your senses for a little while and go into a deep daydream. I often close my eyes unless I'm driving. I do it all the time, all day. But and then I would enter into that scene and play it in the first person, and I would act out how I would act out, whether it would be moving the wedding ring on my finger or touching hers. But I would make sure I planned this out before, so that my mind isn't wandering when I'm in that imaginal scene, because it has to feel natural, and there must be no effort. It's basically emulating how creation works naturally, right? Because we're always creating, and you think about it, before you knew about manifesting, you were still creating, you just had no idea. So it just comes naturally, and when it comes naturally, that's when you manifest. But in saying that, if I played that scene over and over, a condensed version, so that I could make sure that I kept track, if I did that, then, and I felt the thrill of it being real, then it's done, right? So it's done, and then what will happen is a natural bridge of incidents, or some path will be, an infinite series of events will unfold, and I will automatically, and so will that person, automatically be moved to fulfill that imaginal act. And it works every single time, and there's no exceptions. As long as you can concisely and accurately and with conviction and feeling play that scene in your imagination, then it is done. But so this is where people get tripped up. This part right here, and it is what happens after, right? So I've told you that it must follow a natural bridge of incidents, right? So what does that mean, right? If I met someone, so say you want to marry someone, you want to marry this person, right? And say you guys have broken up, and there's a lot of pain, and you have memories, and whatever, this is what happens. If you want to manifest that person, you have to understand that it must come natural to them, right? So that means that and I'll talk about me. If I met someone and I'm just saying this as an example, and they thought in their mind, and they knew how to use this, right? They know how to use this law, and they know how to manifest and use their imagination. If they imagined that her and I were married together, I would not just marry them tomorrow. It wouldn't work like that, because my mind would have to make sense of the whole thing. I would have to go through a normal process. Maybe after she did that imagining, I would then pay attention to her, or I would be talking to her more, and maybe we would go out on a couple of dates, and maybe I wouldn't be interested at first, and then maybe I would, and maybe she would be interested, and then maybe back off a little bit. But I would have to go through all these things. We would have to date for months or years, whatever would be natural feeling to me. We'd have to move in. We'd have to have 3 big fights. We'd have to, I'd have to meet the family. All these things would have to unfold before and now let's remember that she's the one who imagined this, before I make that decision to propose, right? So what's happening here is that people are imagining that they are back together with their ex, or together with a person, or they were together with a person, or they've never been together with a person, and they're imagining that they are married with them. And then the very next day, they get a text message, which they hadn't gotten in months, so obviously it's working, but the person only says to them like a general conversation, like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, good to talk to you. Bye. And the person who has set this intention, they then react. And that reaction is actually the problem. That reaction, that saying, oh my God, he doesn't love me. He doesn't want to marry me. That is where people mess up, because you got to understand, if you just broke up with someone and you're trying to get them back, they're not the next day after you guys aren't talking for months. The next day, they're not going to say, hey, I'm sorry, let's get married right now. It doesn't work like that. It must be natural. God uses us in the way, like, we're all perfect in our own way, and each of us have our own intricacies, and we have our own standards. And so it has to fall within the confines of our own natural reactions. So that's where people get tripped up, right? And the goal is you must suspend judgment and continue to live in the end. And knowing that if that person messaged you, if that person actually, after you have imagined, right? Because this is what I get all the time. People imagine it. The person whom they haven't spoken to in months decides to message them. Well, guess what? It's done. It's fixed. It's finished. If you see the signs, it's done. The only thing that can get in the way is you at this point. starting to react, feeling, you get jealous, or you start playing back old memories, or you start thinking about yourself, or you think about the now and you say, we're not together, right? Because here's the thing. When I imagine, say I want a free cup of coffee, right? Which I happen to manifest frequently. I'll imagine it for a second. I open my eyes and I carry about my day. No big deal. It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. And so the next day when I walk into Starbucks and I buy a coffee and it's free for some reason, either they mess up my order and they give me a free gift certificate and whatever, which is what the latest thing that happened to me. The point is that was natural creation. You think of something, you drop it, you forget about it, uh, and then it manifests, right? Because it's not that big of a deal. And there's no conflicting or contrasting emotions involved with it. You're not obsessing about it. And that's why these things that seem to be little are manifesting. Or the things that you've only thought of once, they manifest. But this one big thing that you want, um, it's not happening, right? So my advice, and this is, like I said, the most crucial thing, is to suspend judgment. When you imagine that person, you see that scene, you're so happy, you feel the feelings, and it's amazing. And then you open your eyes. Well, guess what? Now there's a contrast between this period, which is the end result, and now. And this contrast can cause discomfort, a lot of discomfort. That can evoke a lot of strong emotions, which can then push your manifestation back, right? So what's happening here is, if you've seen the signs, that means that it was set in this, say, path A. Um, and but when you have reacted, right? So say you start here, you end here. When you have reacted, now it's going to set you on a different course, right? Your manifestation is still there. It is still there because you're seeing signs. It's done. There's nothing that can stop it. You can. That's if you see the signs. Now, if you never see the signs and you have conflicting emotions, then there's it's what Neville calls a miscarriage, right? But if the signs are there, you will arrive there, but it's now through your own. It's up to you to keep yourself fixed on the end and not reacting, because otherwise what happens is that you will continuously and infinitely set yourself up in that loop where you keep pushing yourself back, which is, that's just what happens with many people. They say this stuff doesn't work and they quit. But I want to give you an example of something similar to this that I feel like can help. I know someone very close to me, and they were messed up for a very long time. They were having a lot of trouble with addiction and things of that nature. For about 9 years, and I was trying to talk sense to them. I was doing everything that I possibly could, except for imagine, to try to get this person to straighten out. And one day it dawned upon me that I had been talking, venting about this, and it was upsetting me. And I thought, why don't I just imagine this? And so what I did was I imagined that person well. And the very next day, that person was found intoxicated in a gutter. Okay? So it was the opposite of the thing that I had imagined. However, I knew what I had done, and I had been using I had been manifesting and using the law for long enough to know what was happening. And so I just kept with the faith. I said, this is just a part of the natural bridge of incidents to get this person where he needs to be. And so he was in a gutter. And then he got arrested. And then he got brought to the hospital. And then he actually ended up, his mother reached out to me and told me this whole thing. And at that point, I knew that it was done when she told me, right? When I found out about this whole thing, I knew that this was done. But she called me and she said that he wants to get into treatment. And he had been to 20 treatments before. But this time he went, and ever since that day, he is still sober. But if I had not kept that faith, if I had not known that a natural bridge of incidents must unfold to get him to the point that I imagined him, which was just simply lifting him out of a state that he couldn't, or that I didn't, or that he couldn't lift himself out of for the last 9 years because he doesn't know about this stuff. And it's because of my faith, and it's because of the non-contrasting emotions that arose when this happened. And because of that, he remains sober to this day, where this man could not get more than a couple weeks sober for about 9 years or more. So simply imagining and pulling him out of that state, it unfolded, and he's a new man. And so the same thing is applicable for a special person, but the whole trick is just to drop that emotion, because when that conflicting emotion arises, if I had any conflicting emotion about what had happened, and if I doubted, and if I said, oh, he's not well, it would have pushed it back. And I'm certain, because I've seen it time and time again. So it's perfect. Like, it's going to be perfect. It's just a matter of staying fixed on the end result, no matter what happens. And like I said, I've seen it so many different times, and it works. It really works. So, just to kind of reiterate what I've said, the point is to imagine the end. Right? You imagine the end, you feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled in all of its fullness. You feel the thrill of it being done. And, you condense the scene, you play it over and over again, and then you either do it until you fall asleep or you release it. But you don't want to have any conflicting thoughts after that point, because otherwise it's just going to set you, either it's going to give the miscarriage because it hasn't been planted, or it's just going to be set back over and over if it has actually taken root. And so I wanted to touch on another topic that people kind of overlook, and that is the idea of free will, right? Because people often say that people have free will. You can't control what other people do. And I want to tell you that is actually, no one has free will. In your world, everyone is acting out as your projection. Everyone is you pushed out. They are created in the image of you, just as you are created in the image of God. It's the same thing keyed low. So whatever exists in your assumptions or your imagination, those will be expressed and will come into your awareness. The imagination is where we are selecting the state that we desire to experience. All the different things that we can imagine, like if you close your eyes, or not even close your eyes, if you imagine a specific thing, you imagine being with that specific person, that thing that you are imagining literally exists. You are not creating a jumble of random things in your mind. These things that are in your imagination literally are dimensions that already exist. And so if you can imagine it, then you can have it. I won't go into too much detail on that, but just for now, understand that if you can picture something in your mind, then it is possible for you to experience it, because it already exists. This world is not even this world. Our existence is made up of infinite dimensions. That is what all exists in God. And we being we are basically the projector, right? So we are a projection of God, and then in us, we project what we want to see, but we can't see the same way that God sees. We only see in one dimension at a time. And so, in order to see that dimension in reality, see, that's the power that God gave us, so that whatever we can conceive in our imagination, we can receive it as long as we know how to do that. And the way to do that is by using your imagination and feeling the feeling of the wish fulfilled and entering in first person point of view. That point is critical. The if you're thinking of it, if you're looking at yourself, if you're watching like a movie of yourself, it's not going to work. I'm telling you because I messed up that way for a very long time. Because it's like a copy of ourselves is projected on the outside. The outside is just a shadow of the inside. The inside is more real than the outside, technically. And that's why when you imagine it and you feel it, that is you, not like the imagining it is selecting the state, and the feeling it is bringing it to you, right? And then a bridge of incidents will unfold and you will end up at your end result. And the only thing that can get in the way once it has taken root, because it says in the Bible that if you have seen something twice, two signs of the same thing, then it is fixed by God, and there's nothing that can stop it. And I have found that to be true in my life. Testing this thousands and thousands of times, it's absolutely true. So the only thing that can get in the way is if you prolong the manifestation through contradictory feeling or contradictory thought. And so a lot of emphasis should be put on suspending your judgment. And what I mean by that is literally just know that it is done, and that whatever you are seeing is a part of the natural process that was designed by God to get you to the end that you have chosen. And by the way, the way in which the manifestation unfolds, that is not up to you. It says in the Bible that God's ways are past finding out. And what does that mean, past finding out? That means literally you will not figure it out. So don't even try. Because when you try to micromanage the how, all you're doing is creating more obstacles, and you're limiting the possibilities of God. Because we only have a one-track mind, literally. We cannot be in two places in our consciousness at once. But God sees all of it at once. Everything from the beginning to the end, and every possibility that has ever existed and will ever exist. That is what God sees it as. And so that is why we are supposed to only imagine the end. And when you do that, the trajectory that we are placed on is not up to us, but it is certain. It is 100% certain, and there's no doubt, question, there's no if, ands, or buts. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. It's not anything is possible except. So just remember that. And I truly mean this, and it's just very important to understand that, everyone is you pushed out. So the way that your ex or the person that you desire to be with is acting was set into motion by you in the first place. So now if you had imagined that you were going to be married with someone, and then 3 months down the road they break up with you, well, that is a part of the perfect manifestation. And as long as you do not deviate from your track, right? As long as you still stay in the end, you will still reach the end. And that is 100% certain. And I want to see if there's anything else that I wanted to talk to you about. Let's see. ability to change destiny cannot be together. Independent ourselves. Yeah, and then one other thing that I wanted to just drive home is like with a cup of coffee, right? Manifesting a cup of coffee is a piece of cake because it's an inanimate object. We don't have to think about it. We just imagine it, and it's not going to walk away. It's not going to curse at you. It's not going to not let you drink it. So it's a piece of cake. But the problem with knowing that everyone is you pushed out, and the problem with people understanding that or believing that or starting to doubt it is because it seems like the person is independent of you, right? Even though everyone in this world is just a projection of you and they are acting out based off of what you have set in your mind before or in your imagination or your thoughts. Because they're moving independent of you, and because our carnal mind is so used to thinking that people are acting independent of you, when someone acts in a different way than you imagined, then it becomes difficult to remain in that faith. And so I understand that, but there is no question to it, and it's easy to test. It's very easy to test. I mean, you know, something I do on a regular basis is just imagine little things. And imagine, you know, people, someone messaging you, an old friend, right? Just imagine it for a second and you'll see it happen, you know? And I wanted to go to the last part, is talking about generic, right? So one of the reasons Neville told people to go generic is because of the skill it takes to suspend your judgment against what other people are doing. And a lot of people complain. It hurts a lot of people. People end up fixating on a person. And since they're not doing it well, they are stuck in this delusion of that they're doing it right, but they're not manifesting it. So the generic thing is much easier. You know, not imagining a specific person, but just feeling the wedding ring on you, or just feeling married, or hearing a conversation between you and another person talking about how you're married. That's so much easier. And if you don't have a specific person in mind, then it's very possible to do. You know, maybe writing a list of the person that you would like their character traits, and whatever the case may be. Whatever you want to imagine, you know, just make sure that you imagine the end and imagine the wish fulfilled. And then no matter what happens, if you start to see the signs, then it's done. There's nothing that can get in the way. Nothing that can get in the way except for you prolonging it. Or if, like I said, there's no signs, then you've probably had a mental miscarriage. So anyway, I think I've rambled long enough. But just know that you can have whatever you want. Just practice suspending your judgment. Practice living in the end, which means just knowing that it's done. And no matter what they say to you or do not react. Don't react. And don't think about the past. Clear that out completely, because you don't want any remnants of the old relationship or your feelings about yourself or anything. None of that. You don't want any of that in the future. You just want to imagine the perfect relationship with the person and only the end, which is the marriage, and just stick with that and play your part, and a bridge of incidents will unfold, and you will manifest the person that you want. So anyway, like I said, I think I've rambled enough, and I hope this was useful. If you found it useful, please like this, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all that lovely stuff, please. And stay tuned for future videos. So thank you for watching.